The harem conspiracy against Ramesses III. Who tried to kill the pharaoh? Imagine Egypt around 1155 BC. Pharaoh Ramesses III is inside his palace. Around him are guards, officials, priests, and members of the royal family. But inside the palace, a conspiracy is already taking shape. Several people are preparing an attempt on the ruler's life. Their goal is not simply to kill the pharaoh. They want to change the line of succession. And the most incredible part of this story is that, more than 3,000 years later, documents describing the investigation have survived. Scientists have also examined the mummy of Ramesses III, and they discovered something that could not be seen with the naked eye. The pharaoh's throat had been cut. So what really happened inside the Egyptian palace? And who was behind the conspiracy? The pharaoh who ruled. During troubled times, Ramesses III was one of the last great pharaohs of the New Kingdom. His reign came during a difficult period. Egypt had to defend itself against foreign enemies, while economic and political problems were also growing inside the country. Despite this, Ramesses III remained a powerful ruler. He built temples, made enormous donations to the gods, and worked to preserve the authority of the Egyptian monarchy. The scale of his activities is reflected in the famous Great Harris Papyrus. The document was created during the reign of his successor, Ramesses IV, and describes the achievements and donations of Ramesses III to Egyptian temples. The original scroll was about 42 meters long, but behind the image of the powerful pharaoh was another reality. A conflict was developing inside the royal palace, and eventually, that conflict became a deadly conspiracy. Who wanted to change the succession? The main figure behind the conspiracy is believed to have been a woman named T, one of the wives of Ramesses III. Her son was Prince Pentawere. The problem was the succession to the throne. According to the surviving judicial documents, Ta wanted her own son to become pharaoh after Ramesses III. To achieve this, a plot was organized to overthrow the ruler. But this was much more than an ordinary palace dispute. The conspiracy appears to have involved members of the royal household, officials, and other participants. That is why the event became known as the harem conspiracy. Did the conspirators use magic? This is one of the strangest details of the story. Ancient Egyptian judicial documents mention attempts to use magical practices against the king. The conspirators apparently wanted to use more than physical violence. They also turned to magic, which ancient Egyptians believed could be used to harm a person. For them, magic and politics were not necessarily separate worlds. A spell could be treated as a weapon. But the conspiracy still required people who could get close enough to the pharaoh. And that is where the darkest part of the story begins. What happened to Ramesses III? For a long time, historians could not answer this question with certainty. Documents describing the conspiracy survived, but it remained unclear whether the conspirators had actually succeeded in killing the pharaoh. Ramesses III died near the end of his reign. His successor was Ramesses IV. But the written evidence did not initially provide a definite answer to the most important question. Was the pharaoh murdered during the conspiracy? The answer came thousands of years later. What did the mummy reveal? In 2012, a team of researchers conducted a detailed examination of the mummy of Ramesses III. Scientists used computed tomography, forensic analysis, and genetic research. The result was shocking. A deep wound was discovered on the mummy's neck. The injury passed through the soft tissues of the throat and damaged the trachea. Researchers concluded that it had been caused by a sharp object and could have resulted in almost immediate death. In other words, the ancient documents describing the conspiracy received unexpected confirmation. Ramesses III had been murdered, but the killer was not alone. The investigation did not end with the pharaoh's mummy. Scientists examined another mysterious mummy. It is known as Unknown Man E. It was discovered among the royal mummies, and its condition was unusual. Signs of strangulation were found around the neck. The body had also been prepared for burial in an unusual way. It was wrapped in goat skin, a material that may have been considered ritually impure in ancient Egyptian tradition. Researchers suggested that this man could have been Pharaoh, the son of Tie, and a suspected participant in the conspiracy. But it is important to separate fact from hypothesis. Scientists consider him a very strong candidate. However, his identity cannot be proven with absolute certainty. The strange fate of Pharaoh. If unknown man, he really was Pharaoh, his fate was extraordinary. He was the son of a pharaoh. He could potentially have become king. Instead, he became involved in a conspiracy against his own father. After the conspiracy failed, the participants were brought to trial. Some were executed, others received different punishments. And Pharaoh, according to the interpretation of researchers, may have been forced to take his own life. His unusual burial may have been connected to his punishment. Did the conspiracy succeed? This is where the story becomes especially interesting. The conspirators managed to inflict a fatal wound on the pharaoh, but they did not achieve the result they wanted. After the death of Ramesses III, the throne passed to his son, Ramesses IV. So the attempt to change the succession apparently failed. The conspirators wanted to change the future of Egypt. But history took another path. The trial of the conspirators. We know about the conspiracy because of ancient judicial papyri. This is an extraordinary source. We often think of ancient Egypt as a world of pyramids, mummies, and temples. But here we see something almost like a real criminal investigation. There were suspects. There was a crime. There was an investigation. There was a trial. And there were punishments. The names of people connected with the conspiracy were recorded. Some of them even received altered names in the documents, possibly reflecting punishment and the symbolic removal of their identities. For historians, this provides a rare opportunity to see not only the life of a pharaoh, but also how royal justice worked in ancient Egypt. A conspiracy that survived for 3,000 years. The most remarkable part is how much of this story survived. We know about the conspiracy not because the Egyptians created a beautiful legend. We have written evidence. We have archaeological discoveries. We have the mummy of Ramesses III. We have CT scans. And we have genetic evidence. Research found that Ramesses III and unknown man E belonged to the same paternal genetic lineage, supporting the possibility that they were father and son. So today, the story looks almost like an ancient criminal case that archaeologists reopened thousands of years later. More than 3,000 years ago, a conspiracy took place in Egypt. A woman wanted to put her son on the throne. Officials and members of the royal household joined the plot. Magic and political intrigue were involved. And then the pharaoh was fatally wounded. His killers wanted to change the future of Egypt, but their plan failed. Ramesses IV became pharaoh, and the names of the conspirators remained in ancient documents. Thousands of years later, scientists examined the royal mummy and used modern technology to investigate the death, and they discovered evidence that changed our understanding of the story. Ramesses III's throat had indeed been cut. An ancient papyrus described the conspiracy. The mummy revealed the fatal injury, and modern science helped connect the two pieces of evidence. Perhaps that is why the story of Ramesses III is so fascinating. This is not simply a legend about an ancient pharaoh. It is a real crime that happened more than 3,000 years ago, and one that archaeologists were able to investigate again. Egypt preserved not only the mummies of its kings, it also preserved traces of their crimes, conspiracies, and deaths.